What do you get when you cross a know-it-all newspaper columnist with an awkward, unsophisticated everyman?
Yeah. Well, I'm just not sure about that right now.
Welcome to Couch and the Rube.
Welcome to Couch in the Rube, our Friday afternoon show, presented by our friends at Firekeepers Casino and the Firekeepers iCasino and Sportsbook app. Download the app today. Bet the games we're betting. The Premier League is back this weekend. I'm all over that. You can bet those games by downloading the Firekeepers iCasino and Sportsbook app, or just swing down to Dacey's Tap Room and enjoy the Sportsbook experience. No need to go to Vegas. It's right down near Battle Creek off I-94 at Firekeepers Casino. Jason, how you doing, brother?
It's our core foundation, man. Grit.
What's up, buddy? Are you excited that the Lions preseason game's on tonight?
No.
Speaking of gambling, over under what, 36? Mm-hmm.
Are you going to bet on this game?
No. I listen, I'm a degenerate, but I'm kind of a reformed one. I don't think I can bet on preseason football, especially Detroit Lions preseason football. I'm just going to watch maybe the first half, I think.
Okay.
And then, I don't know. I want to say, like, when the Hall of Fame game happened, I was, like, excited for a little bit. But I knew deep down I wasn't going to end up watching more than 20 minutes. And that's what happened. So, but anyway, football's back.
Yeah. I don't think I'm in a fantasy league anymore. I got kicked out a few years ago, and nobody's ever invited me back, or the league stopped. I'd like to tell myself
Why did you get kicked out?
Nobody ever said anything. And maybe it was COVID and other things, and the league didn't happen for a year.
Did you not respond to trades? Did you leave bench players or people that were benched? Did you leave them in your lineup, things like that?
I was definitely the guy that late in the year would forget a week.
See, that's why you're out.
And yeah, no.
It takes literally 10 minutes a week.
Sometimes I would forget.
I know, understand that.
And so, but I like to think the league just stopped happening. Like, I haven't heard from anybody else in the league that they're still playing. And so,
because you didn't put a lineup in. That's usually what happens when we bounce people out of leagues I've been in. It's just like, come on, man.
All right.
I understand you forget, but maybe you shouldn't be playing fantasy football. You have so much going on.
Yeah, no, it's fair. It's a fair criticism for sure, for sure. We are going to dig into your Groovy Donut Twitter questions here momentarily, but as we do each end of week show, what we are betting this weekend, presented by Firekeepers and the Firekeepers iCasino and Sportsbook app. Jason, do you have anything you're betting this weekend?
Well, of course, the standard parlays for baseball that I end up getting my heart broken for. But the FedEx Cup is happening in golf, and the St. Jude Championship is this weekend. And my favorite golfer, Jordan Spieth, he's atop the leaderboard. He's 5 under, shot a 63 yesterday. He's +2 right now through 6. So I like gambling on Spieth just because you never know what you're going to get, but I also hate gambling on Spieth. So I'll be sprinkling on him to hopefully he can win this thing.
The Premier League is back. So football may be back, but the Premier League is back starting actually Friday, 3 o'clock, the Manchester City versus Burnley. But full weekend slate, Saturday, Sunday games, even a Monday game. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. I really like a few games. One of them, Brighton -1.5 at home against Luton Town. Luton Town newly promoted, great story, cool old stadium that's tiny, that barely up to the. I mean, it's like they've been in the 5th division not that long ago, and now they're playing in the Premier League. Brighton's legit, and I don't think the market is quite caught up to them yet. 1.5 is, I prefer to get -1, but 1.5, I will take it. It's close to even money on that against Luton Town, so I'm all over that. And I kind of like a favorites parlay, and I'd throw Man City in there, but that game will probably be over by the time most people listen to this. With like Arsenal, and this weekend, Man United this weekend, and Brighton just on the money line. Those 3 on the money line. You'll get about even money if you put all 3 of those together on a money line. Brighton over Luton Town, Arsenal at home over Nottingham Forest, and Man United at home against the Wolves, who I think are going to be absolutely awful this year. Kind of like Everton against Fulham too. On pick 'em there. There are a few things that are But those are the Premier League games that I am.
Are any
I'm
of the
looking at.
games on?
Peacock?
A few, a Peacock, and yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Might get myself into a Leagues Cup game tonight to Monterrey, an underdog against LAFC, and I'm always on the Mexican side when it's the top Mexican club. So
Peacock?
considering that as well on the Firekeepers iCasino and Sportsbook app. Jason, my friend, are you ready to dig into these Groovy Donut Twitter questions?
Let's do it. Eric Schultz, of course, up first. MSU 2024 recruiting per 247. Is that 24/7? 24?
Yeah.
Fourth in the new Big Ten, ninth in average. 14th, that's two. Ninth in average player ranking, 16th in total kids pledged. Your overall mindset seems to always be that we shouldn't be concerned about the state of recruiting. How could we not be? Can you answer without saying 4 stars?
7.5.
5, whatever.
7.5, 4 stars. Sorry, I should have made that a half single. So yes, I can answer without saying the phrase that's not supposed to be spoken. I'm not saying you shouldn't worry about recruiting ever. I'm just saying you can't worry about it now, or you shouldn't worry about it now. I think around December, around signing day, it's a good time to worry about recruiting. I think the recruiting world is so upside down, and so many things are going to perhaps happen late, are developing different than they did before. I mean, it's still recruiting is the talent acquisition part of college football, and if Michigan State's going to be a team that can compete in the new Big Ten, it's going to have to recruit really well. That's absolutely a concern. I just don't care about the rankings today, and I don't care about the number of guys they have today. And unless you start, or I start hearing the coaching staff talking about concerns, or you start to get a whisper that things aren't going well as they wanted, fine. I just don't, the rankings today, I just don't, I'm not worried
Would
about
you
it.
say the same if Michigan State had like 6 5-stars?
Yes,
Okay.
because we've seen how many of those guys have decommitted in the past. And the other thing is they're about to go through a season which could have some ups and downs, which could change the momentum of the program. And guys who are already committed may decommit, and people who are on the outside may commit. Like, I that's why. So yeah, I would say that either way. It's not that you shouldn't be worried about committing. I just don't recruiting. I just don't care about recruiting in August.
Matt Venny next. Would you rather be a fan of a team that wins a lot every year, but if you don't win a national championship, it's considered a failure, or a team so bad that they almost never win, but will occasionally get an upset victory or a win over a rival and maybe have a once-in-a-lifetime championship run?
Where are you on this? Would you rather have? Would you rather? In other words, this is basically: would you rather root for Ohio State, or would you rather root for? I don't know. Iowa's probably too big, but it occasionally upset.
Why would I want to root for Iowa?
I'm just saying, which would you
Terrible
rather be a
offense.
fan of? Well, not Iowa's a bad example. Give me who's a team that might have an upstart. See, I mean, Michigan State would be.
I want to
maybe
win.
that.
I want to win. I mean, it's big boy football time, so I would like to be a part of big boy football if we're going to pour that amount of money into the university and the program and everything. So I wouldn't see it as a failure since it's hard to win a national championship, but I would like to be able to, 11-win season and you lose in a bowl game, that's disappointing.
Yeah, my answer is clear here. I like to enjoy small victories. I think life is better if you can do that, and you can't do that if you're Ohio State. You can't enjoy weeks 2 through 6 and beating Purdue or anything like that. I like the underdog stories. I like the dream of becoming a big boy, even if it never actually happens, but being able to live that dream. And I don't want every season to come down to whether you win a national championship or not. I don't think life is fun as a front runner. Number one, if you are one of those fans, like you better live in Ohio or be from the school, because to choose a front runner says something about your character. But that's a shot at Man City fans too, and American Man City fans. So yeah, I would 100% be on the underdog that is able to enjoy the season, the small victories, and have hope. You want to have hope. It would suck to be Rutgers. I don't want to be Rutgers, but
You just want to be middling.
Well, I'm not saying I'm saying
with a chance of
I
being
had
successful.
if I had to be a fan of Purdue or Ohio State, I would choose Purdue. Like Nathan Baird, for example, who worked at the Lafayette Courier-Journal and then left there to work at the Columbus Post-Dispatch and cover Ohio State football. Covered Purdue, then Ohio State football. he did it because he wanted to cover the big time, and I understand he wanted that experience, and it's a bigger paper, probably a pay raise and all that stuff. I would rather cover Purdue. First of all, way more access, fewer media in your way, fewer, people sitting around there with cameras in people's faces. You're trying to interview a player, fewer reporters just sitting there with a phone up in somebody's face. By the way, that's starting to bother me. And I just would find it better from a day-to-day living experience.
But once in a lifetime championship run, so you just get one run. I just want to win something. I don't know. I just want to root for a winner. Matt Venny next. If the Big Ten decided that teams can only have one protected rivalry and Michigan gets Ohio State, who should MSU have as its protected rival?
No one. You go unrivaled because Michigan is your rival and you're Michigan's rival. But if somehow that were ever to happen, and it's not going to happen, they're going to protect the rivalries over the idea of playing everybody more frequently. So Michigan's going to have two protected rivals. That's just the way it's going to be. But if that sort of thing were to happen in your Michigan State, you just say, we'll play everybody more often. We're not having a protected rival.
Next one from Matt. Graham mentioned that Tucker is being a good boss by not criticizing or firing his coaches midseason. So how bad would either side of the ball have to be to justify Tucker making in-season coaching changes?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it would have to be something where you felt like they were really underachieving with the pieces they had, or that Tucker doesn't seem like that kind of guy that's going to do that. I do think there comes a point where, if this isn't a substantial step defensively, like you listen to a guy like Scotty Hazelton now, and he's talking about just the difference in size and guys they have in depth and their ability to rotate guys and how that's going to help a guy like Simeon Barrow, who I think is an NFL guy. Like, I think they do have some dudes on defense. And if that doesn't start to show up in production and stopping the run and having games where the defense is a problem for the other team and it feels like you're getting outwitted, you're not playing to your potential, then you got to make a change. I doubt that happens in season. I think the danger of it happening in season is it rarely do defenses and offenses get better when it happens. The one thing I would say defensively, and the exception to that would be if the head coach takes over the play calling, or, and that could happen on defense. And I'm not saying he would fire a coach, but he would step in and say, I'm going to call the defense. Because I think if you do that as a head coach, you either have to have somebody on your staff who you're really high on doing it, or you have to put your money where your mouth is and do it yourself. And so much more likely to happen on the defensive side of the ball because that's Tucker's expertise.
Jarrett next. Why does Michigan not win the Big Ten and miss the playoff?
I'm not talking about Michigan.
Because there are other really good teams in the Big Ten. Like, I think Penn State could be fantastic. Yeah. Maybe they're a year away, but they're going to be really good. Ohio State, at some point, at some year, is not going to get their ass kicked by Michigan. They're going to, freaking man up and deal with it at the line of scrimmage and be better.
If Penn State had a coach other than James Franklin, would you be more high on Penn State this year?
Yeah, and if they had a quarterback with a little more experience, maybe. But, yeah, absolutely.
But I like that kind of unknown with a lot of players coming back, a great defense, a great offensive line that they have. The 9.5 number, Graham, I'm dying to go over and kind of heavy.
I've got the Penn State over.
Right?
For sure, yeah. And
so something's going to have to go wrong with James Franklin if this Penn State team, doesn't win 10 games.
So the question is, and so miss the playoff this year, it's easy. You only have 4 spots. A year from now, that's a different conversation. But Michigan could very easily miss the playoff just because I think there are minimum, and who knows, I'm just talking the East Division. But so in the East Division, there are minimum 2 other teams that are going to be right there with them, and they've got. I think Michigan's got about a 33% chance of winning the Big Ten. I would put it at about the same for all 3 of those guys.
Could go either way. Jarrett next. A Michigan football fan just woke up from a coma they suffered in 1946. Who are they most mad about joining the Big Ten? MSU or someone else?
Yeah, it would be MSU originally, but then they'd look around and be like, what USC? Oregon? What the hell's going on? I didn't even know Oregon, you could get to Oregon in 1946. Like, that was like Little House on the Prairie.
That would be the first thing that they would talk about is the Big Ten after 1946, waiting that long.
There'll be a lot of things, a lot of generations that have passed. A lot of wars, a lot of.
How much is that medical bill, by the way?
$1
trillion?
Yeah, there'd be so many things they'd be confused by. They had a black president. What the hell happened there? Anyway, but I would say it'd have to be MSU. Is their initial thought, because there's nobody else as a rival who's joined later that would be that. They'd be confused about the West Coast schools, though, for sure.
Wait, a woman's vice president? David Jackson, if Michael Penix instead of Anthony Russo had transferred to MSU before 2021, would MSU have been just as good or better in 2021 and far better in 2022, making a 22 bowl and maybe beating Washington in Seattle? And do we beat Purdue and make the playoff instead of Michigan doing it?
So in 2021, Penix wasn't he sat out injured, right? Hold on, give me some Hoff real quick here. I want to double check this.
I can't stop this feeling deep inside of me. Girl, you just don't realize what you do to me.
Oh no, he played some in Indiana. Okay. Yeah, or in 2021, but he did not have a great year, was banged up, was coming off the knee injury. So 2021, so he wouldn't have factored into 2021. That would have, I think, still been Peyton Thorne's team, and maybe there would have been a little more spice into who wins the job. But Penix would have been benched at some point, and so I don't know if he sticks around. Certainly 2022, Michael Penix, the quarterback we saw last year, improves Michigan State. And Washington would have had him. So yeah, they might have won that game, and it might have been a very different season in some ways. So yeah, it helps them, but it would not have changed 2021 from what I remember about his 2021 season.
David Jackson next. With all the money being thrown around, shouldn't the Big Ten encourage or even insist that 2 or more schools add hockey as a varsity sport? And as a big load of crap ever has been spoken that exceeds the Big Ten promise of a great Big Ten network hockey coverage.
Yeah, that was all bullshit, and that was part of their. I mean, the Big Ten should not have created a hockey conference. It nearly destroyed college hockey. College hockey did survive, but there was no need for it. It was the beginning of the Big Ten's been a bully at times before that, but that was a very bullyish thing to do. Nearly destroyed a sport. And lots of teams for a minute didn't have a place to go, and there's still things that are unstable about college hockey because of the Big Ten feeling like it had enough teams now and it needed to create its own conference. Part of the issue, part of what they claimed at the time was, hey, we want to be able to put Big Ten hockey on Friday nights, programming for BTN. Well, a couple things happened. One, with the CCHA and the other leagues that were around, the WCHA at the time were like, look, we'll work with you. We'll make sure the teams that are in the Big Ten that are in our leagues are on TV on Friday nights. We'll do things cross-conference. Whatever it is, we'll make sure you have programming with Big Ten teams on Friday nights, and it might not be in the same league or in the Big Ten. The other thing that then happened was it turned out that people don't watch college hockey on TV. And not gymnastics, college volleyball especially, but then wrestling as well and other things just do better in the ratings, and that's what's happened. And so they've adjusted to the market like anything else. So I think their intent initially was to do it. They've discovered that they'd rather put a football game on there or a volleyball game or a wrestling meet, and there just isn't the overall large interest that they were hoping. I don't think you'll see. They're not going to. Hockey's expensive. It's at best you can break even. I don't think they're going to demand it from anybody. Does having extra money through these media rights deals encourage somebody like Illinois who thought about it to go back to it? Because it's, obviously you need a donor to step in initially, but then you might be able to sustain it a little more. I don't know. It's possible. Certainly it would have been interesting if the Arizona schools, Arizona and Arizona State, had been brought in. And I was talking to Mark Hollis actually last weekend, and he always thought they would have been a decent fit. And Arizona State obviously plays hockey already, and that would have been interesting.
How is Hollis doing? Are you doing a story on him or something?
No. He hosts a radio show on WJR on Sunday mornings.
Oh, really?
And I was just on his show, so I just chatted with him a little,
Gotcha.
And yeah, he seems well. But we didn't really talk off air or anything. So
all right,
if you're really struggling, you're not going to say it on air. Usually
valid.
Yeah.
David Jackson next. Graham, Do you really believe that if you somehow came to own a medium-sized city's daily newspaper, you could make it profitable? Or is this hyperbole and balderdash? If you ran the LSJ Sports, would coverage of the Spartans be Ebeling Homer style or Todd Schultz hater style?
I mean, it would be what the style is now. I mean, in terms of MSU coverage, I do run the LSJ in that sense. I mean, I dictate the coverage with my columns, and
whoa,
I'm what I mean, nobody's telling me what to write. So it would be I always think there is a middle ground between those two. Schultz, as much as I enjoyed reading his stuff, and there was a lot of shit going on at MSU to criticize at the time, but he was tough. He was tough on MSU, and I thought you have to know your audience. People don't want to just constantly be shit on, and people also need sometimes a level of criticism that I don't know that
I think people
Jack
enjoy
always brought.
An even balance.
Yeah.
Like when a fan is thinking, like, man, what is up with this team? I like reading about stuff, thinking like the way I was thinking.
Yeah, right. The big part of being a columnist, the hardest part, writing, finding your voice, all that stuff can come with it. It's choosing the right column. And what column are you writing today? It's coming up with the idea, but it's also reacting to what do people want to read right now, and writing the right column. And to the first part, yes, it depends on the city, how easy it would be. But if I own the LSJ, first of all, the LSJ is profitable. But secondly, if I ran it, it would be more profitable because if I ran it separate from any corporate ownership, for sure.
I have a subscription till 2028 for $1.99. So
that's how we get people.
Yeah. Next one from David. David, after Big Ten expansion, will there be 3 protected play twice basketball rivals? That would be a huge accommodation for the West Coast schools. We all want to play our rivals both home and away.
So if you've got 18 teams, right, you've got 17 opponents, and you've got a 20-game Big Ten schedule, you get to play 3 teams twice. Do you always play the same 3 teams? I don't know that you'll do that, but and I don't know if it works well for scheduling. Now, in the Pac-12, it does work perfect. If they were to play Oregon, like if you're USC and you play UCLA, Oregon, and Oregon's or in Washington twice. So I don't know that it would be the same for everybody, but that is an idea. And if you're Michigan State, though, I mean, it seems like if you're trying to have some balance, though, that needs to rotate. And it would make sense for the West Coast schools, but you're trying to have a true champion, which gets harder to do in this scenario anyway. But you'd have Michigan, and I don't know who else Michigan State would take. Because I think you'd probably wind up rotating it around in terms of who you play twice. Because Michigan State fans, in some ways, would like Indiana, Purdue. Those are like long-standing teams. Wisconsin, but those are also really good teams, and that's a harder deal too. My guess is it's the West Coast teams play their fellow West Coast teams twice. Everybody else, it mixes up a little more.
Cinemod next. I'm worried that college football is collapsing. The majority of D1 schools cannot afford their football teams and rely on outside sources for money. At this pace, I can see a future where only 40 teams can survive and college football becomes the mini NFL. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm concerned too. And here's why I'm concerned. It's not because I think Michigan State or the Big Ten schools or any of the haves, the true haves, the top 40 or so, are going to be in trouble at any point, and maybe even a little beyond that. But what makes college sports work is this fierce love for your school and the traditions that start for a lot of people when they go to college and they're going to games, and that's where the bond and the tradition of going to, that's where the connection with those sports teams begins and winds up lasting a lifetime. I worry that if you're going to lose some of those connections for people if they're not in power leagues or if they think their team doesn't have hope. And what creates college sports success is all of these individual schools' fan bases together being engaged. And so if you're a fan of Southern Illinois University, like you believe your team in basketball especially has a chance to make the Sweet 16, if you take away the ability for people to dream and hope, they're going to be less engaged, less involved, and they're going to be less caring about what happens at the national level, less engaged in the big games as well. I think what's happening is the TV markets are saying we want the big game ratings, and we'll do that at the expense of a lot of other schools and content and fan bases that are smaller. And I don't think that's the formula to a healthy college football and college basketball market 25 years from now. It may work for a while, and maybe it'll change and people adjust as they need to. But, yeah, I do think it's going to be different, and it may be less enjoyable, and that's not good for the future of the sport.
Some dude next. Graham, did you ever get to Moneyball when Booker was there, or have you been around him at all to get more of first-hand look? Is there a thigh report available that I missed?
His thighs are fine. They're not quite Jaren Jackson's, but they're not Marcus Bingham's, so that's positive. And I did get there, and I saw him play. I think he was there both times. I think I saw him twice. Maybe I saw him once. But, yeah, at Moneyball, he looked really good, but that's Moneyball. But he's obviously a very good athlete, runs like a deer, has some real athletic advantages that he'll bring to Michigan State, and it'll be about how he adjusts to all the little things that you need to do. But skill-wise, he's going to be a terrific player. And the thing that's going to happen, and the challenge for him, is he's up against a number of seasoned guys or more seasoned guys, and so he's going to have to earn those minutes by being good enough and detailed enough and executing well enough to let that skill take over. I think it'll happen for him. I think he'll have a good year. I think he'll play behind Malik Hall and play 17 minutes a game, mostly at the 4.
Is saying that you run like a deer a compliment?
I think so.
Like, I see a lot of deer dead on the side of the highway. You're not running very smart.
If somebody says you think like a deer, that's a problem.
Okay.
If you see headlights and you're like, freeze, and I'm going to jump in front of that, then that's an insult.
Yeah.
If you,
deers have a lot of rube in them. Yeah.
If you want to insult somebody, say, "Hey man, you think like a deer."
Dang.
Yeah.
Some dude who will end up being the most revered. AJ, Hoggard or Granger? Where does Hoggard have to do to lock that up?
When it at least get to a Final Four. I just burped a little on the microphone.
Gross.
It's gross. Granger was part of a national championship team, and he was also beloved because he was a stretch 4 before MSU really had a lot of those, and you hadn't seen 4 men shoot like that. It was just different. But I think Hoggard is a point guard. If he plays with any consistency and he gets them to a Final Four, he's seen as a big part of a beloved team. You need to be part of a beloved team, and that's what has to happen.
Plus-size softball dad next. With the increased travel, with the new conference, hasten Izzo's departure?
I don't think so. I mean, he goes everywhere already. What's going to drive Izzo nuts is if his team, like this year, he's able to keep everybody together. If he starts losing 3 or 4 transfers a year, that will drive him crazy. If it's NIL driven,
Don't coach my team.
I think all that stuff will be the stuff that's more. Look, they fly everywhere and they play everywhere and they fly on. I mean, they're not flying commercial, and they're not on Sun Country, or any of these Spirit Airlines. They are. I mean, sometimes they actually are because that's what the charter flight is. But they're flying charter, and they're flying comfortably, and they're flying directly to where they have to go, and it's a very easy travel lifestyle.
Ghost of George Perlis next. Why doesn't anyone remember that in 2021, MSU's team had Connor Hayward, Jalen Naylor, Jaden Reed, and a few more NFL players other than Walker?
It's a good question because I think a lot of people think that team was only Walker. The counter would be this. He is what made them better than 5-7 or 6-6. You can have NFL guys and still be a really middling team. I mean, one of the teams I loved as a kid was the Michigan State team with Tony Banks and Muhsin Muhammad and Derek Mason and those guys. I mean, you had an NFL quarterback and 2 NFL receivers who had like 15-year NFL careers, and that team barely made a bowl game. There was like a 6-5 team. So you could have NFL dudes, and that doesn't make. So I think that people remember that. But you're right. There is a sense that team was all Kenneth Walker, and that's not entirely fair either.
Ghost of George Perlis with this one. When do we get a show where questions are answered by Coach K and David Ortiz? Ooh, there have to be a lot of weed involved. The whole show. I can't even do it for like a minute without hurting my nose.
What's your Ortiz?
That's your.
Oh, that's
your
me.
bid.
Oh, that's
Jesus,
right.
man.
I was thinking you had one too, but that's this is my fucking city. My fucking city.
How did you forget that you had a David Ortiz thing?
I didn't forget.
I had a David Ortiz?
Right. No, you don't. It's just all
Jesus,
me.
man.
By the way, if you want to have a Coach K groovy donut or a David Ortiz groovy donut or Jalen Naylor groovy donut, Connor Haywood, any Michigan State Spartan or athlete, they will custom make that donut for you at Groovy Donuts. Just go to groovydonuts.com, place your order. It's one of the really cool things they do, some of their work on custom donuts. Your team donuts, your school, whatever it is. If you're getting ready for a tailgate at Michigan State on that Friday night when they play Central Michigan, nothing adds to a tailgate more, other than maybe booze and maybe a little weed or something like that, then Skymint, and by the way, weed and Skymint go hand in weed and Groovy Donuts go hand in hand. Go to groovydonuts.com to place your order, or you can stop by either location for a donut anytime, 7 a.m. to 1 p.m. Thursday through Sunday, and that is on Lake Lansing Road in East Lansing and also in Williamston.
Have you eaten today?
I
okay?
I actually haven't eaten today.
Oh, Jesus, that's the problem. Get this man some food.
Do I sound off? Yeah.
No, you're fine. I'm just saying the David Ortiz thing threw me. Sorry.
Yeah.
Matt C. next. Why are MSU fans afraid to have expectations and demand programs that compete for national titles?
Well, I mean, you're an MSU fan, and I think you have those. I think some do. I think there's nothing wrong with also being a little bit of a realist and not being angry when your team's going through a journey. Does that make sense?
Caution! You are about to enter a spin zone with noted new.
Oh, whatever.
I think it's fine to have expectations. You
Yes.
hired a coach for $9.5 million, but you got the expectations. If your expectations are now, and they're not real, and you're just gonna be angry about it, then what the fuck, man? You have to give people time to do what needs to be done. You have to be realistic. You have to look at how programs were built and how long it takes them to happen. And at a certain point, it's fair to have those expectations, and it's fair to want that. And
our guy Chad Latz picks the Michigan State football team to win a national title every year. So there's that kind of fandom, but he wants a big-time winner. I like having an attitude or mentality of trying to compete with these other teams. If we're going to do it, let's just go for it.
No doubt. That should be the ultimate goal that you're building toward. You shouldn't be building toward anything less.
Yeah.
But along the way, sometimes you have to understand you're just not there yet.
Matt, next, who do you think Scotty Hazelton wants the identity of the MSU defense to be? What types of schematic advantages can he give us? I don't want to hear talent as an excuse this year. He needs to execute and have a defense that's in the top 5 of the Big Ten.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair, and I think he does have.
Bend don't break this year.
They certainly should be able to stop the run if they're at all healthy, because the linebackers they have are seasoned and good players. I think they really do have some good players up front on the interior line, especially, and they have depth, and so, even a few injuries they ought to be able to withstand. Like, they ought to be able to be pretty good against the run, and that ought to help everything else. I do think this is a big year for him, and I think what he wants the identity to be, and he's made clear, and maybe this is partly personnel-based, but they want to be able to stop the run. And they think if they do that, it just will make everybody's life better. And I think that's, for this team and the personnel they have, that's really key.
Ryan Schultz next. Do you think the James Franklin problem is as significant as the Mark Turgeon problem? In other words, does betting on Penn State to win the Big Ten actually have any value?
This is a good question. I'm not a believer in James Franklin, but I also don't believe he has the ceiling that Turgeon had, where it was like, he's going to, I do think he's still a pretty decent coach, and that they can overcome him in certain ways. I think there is value, but I know what you mean, and it's these next 2 years are going to be interesting, because some people think that Penn State's even a year away. I think they're going to be really good this year, and if they underachieve these 2 years, then I think it's fair to say they just can't overcome them, and then that's a thing.
JD next. Can we get a Justin Thind tweet or article stating Caton Hauser looks like he's pulling away in the quarterback competition? to really get some drama going within the fan base. Need Charbs and Solari infighting with fans like a fish needs water.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to get that tweet because I don't think that's what's been happening. But that would be entertaining, and I enjoy like you enjoy, especially when Solari gets fired up and goes at people. I'm always telling him it's not worth it, Chris, and sometimes he just can't help himself.
Next one from JD. Can I get a reasonable spin zone from Graham on why not firing your underachieving coordinators who you hired at the end of a coaching cycle once you got the bag is excusable?
Caution. You are about to enter the spin zone with noted newspaper columnist and radio host Graham Couch.
These guys all took over a program that we're realizing now had less and less talent than we knew. They took over in the middle of a pandemic. They took over before they could recruit. And it is absolutely fair to expect guys making great money in those jobs to perform. But at some point, they have to have the pieces to do so. And at some point, they will. And at some point, it's on them to bring those pieces in as well. And so I think the microscope gets a little tighter, I don't know, closer. The seat gets a little hotter, so to speak.
Feet to the fan.
Feet to the fan. That's what I'm saying. But I don't know how underachieving they are versus the talent they've had, if that makes sense. How's that for spin?
I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
That was good. Nate Breen next. If the over-under on snaps for Sam Levitt this year is set at 0.5, where would you lean?
I'm going over, and I'm hammering the over. I'm calling firekeepers. I'm like, put this. Now they're not going to do something like this. You have to do the offshore books to find things like this. But
I would love to see that offshore book. That would take Sam
Levitt.
Yeah.
So because here's the thing. Last year, for example, Caton Hauser, who was the third quarterback in a similar spot, threw 2 passes, took several snaps. And with the ability to play up to 4 games and not blow your red shirt, and with with a MAC team and a 1AA team, unless they're really struggling, I think they will try to find a way to get him on the field for a couple snaps at some point. So I would think he plays in one of the first 2 games at least.
Jay Riemenschneider next. How surprised are you that both Hazelton and Johnson made it back for 23?
Less and less so. If you would ask me this in the middle of last year, I would say mildly. But Tucker never gave any inclination that he doesn't believe in those guys. He hasn't yet. And to be fair to that situation, like if a good coach and good leader and good boss would never give any inclination until it was time to fire them.
Unless you're Ron Rivera.
Well, yeah, it's not. That's the thing. Like, you don't say it out loud until you're ready to make the move, because that doesn't help anybody. Like, the players don't need to hear the head coach say one of their coordinators they don't have faith in them or anything like that. Doesn't help you play for the guy. Doesn't help you prepare for the next week. Doesn't do you any good. But I would, once the season ended, just sort of listening to Mel Tucker, I was not surprised.
Next one from Jay. Will George Kliavkoff have the same job in 2025 that he has today?
No. That's the Pac-12, Pac-4 commissioner.
Pac-4.
Whatever.
He has to stay, but he has to call it the Pac-4. He's the commissioner of 4 teams.
There will be no league, and he will definitely not be there. I mean, he's going to be one of the people who, rightly or wrongly, gets blamed for the end of the league. And some of the reporting that's coming out now about, that a year ago they had a $30 million offer from ESPN, and now it's not.
And I thought they came back with it. We need 50 per team.
Yeah, not great.
Holy shit!
Now the thing is, the commissioners and the leagues, they work for the schools. They work for the presidents. The schools are the league, and so the school president screwed this up. The commissioner's not doing anything without the membership saying this is what we want or voting. So, like, it's not all on him, but nonetheless, he's not going to have that.
Like,
job.
I heard ESPN Snap said no. Like, wouldn't you go, okay, we'll take 30? Because I can understand what you're trying to have a little balls in the offer, right, and come back with $50 million. But come on,
if you're the Pac-12, you have to look around your stadiums at Arizona, at UCLA, even at USC, certainly at Stanford and at Cal. And you've got to, when you can count the people in the stands, there's a question about the intensity of your fan base. And you've got to know that maybe the eyeballs aren't there, and that's okay. You've got some other advantages, but you're going to have to build some of that revenue differently.
Take that $30 million. Next one from Jay. Is Press Pass with Jack Ebling ever going back to the studio, and why no Graham lately?
I asked Jack about this a few days ago. They'd like to be back in the studio. It wasn't actually as much like they were in studio, because I remember doing the show during COVID. We had all sorts of like separation things, and it was. But what basically happened, I believe, is the studio where they did that started a news program nightly and needed that studio, so they couldn't use it anymore. And that's on the network that show is on Fox 47. So
that's the house Larry Wallace built over there. I love Larry Wallace.
The house Larry Wallace built. That's what they should call it.
He's the man. I love Larry Wallace.
And why no me? Mostly because, and Jack asks frequently, but they record that on Sunday nights, and we do a show on Sunday nights. So it's not that I couldn't occasionally do it. They do it early enough for me almost to pull it off, but it's hard to do.
Michael Warheit next. What defense will the Spartans play? 4-3-4 or 4-2-5? I prefer the former to stop the run.
I think they'll play a little of both depending on the matchups they're facing, be it Iowa, Washington, very different types of teams, different types of offenses. I think their plan is to adjust to play both and to play it, to have the personnel out there that reacts to the offense in front of them.
Suburban Spartan Dad next. If you had to add one person from the Michigan State basketball team to this year's football roster, who would it be and what position would he play?
Is it Sissoko, defensive end, coming off the edge? Is that?
I was thinking Cohen Carr, wide receiver, touchdown.
Okay.
Yeah,
that could be good.
I mean, his head was above the rim in that picture I saw.
It's fair.
I mean, come on.
It's not a bad.
Reach up and grab one.
Just throw it up. Yeah.
S.J. Davidson next. Will you guys say screw X? We're going to always call it Twitter. Yeah.
For a while. I mean, whatever's natural to everybody's vernacular. Until everybody's calling it X, we'll call it Twitter, because people don't know what you're talking about. And the problem with X, it's not even like they branded it some way that could be some unique word that eventually took hold. X is a freaking letter, and mostly it means porn. And so, like, there's no way it's...
X doesn't mean porn. Like, how bad? That's like soft porn.
Well, it's like
just one X.
Paris porn, yeah.
Like Emmanuel in Paris. Like, is that X?
That's softcore. That's TVMA, isn't
XXX.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
the sad thing that I knew exactly what you were talking about. Let's move on.
We're the same age. S.J. Davidson next. What's the one guy on offense and the one guy on defense MSU could lose and it not be a death knell?
Well, I mean, I think there are perhaps a number of guys, because I think this team is more depth than star power. And so on offense, I think, and there are several linemen who may have not separated themselves. They may not have separated themselves at quarterback yet. There are a number of receivers. I don't know if they have a true number one guy, but they've got a number of interesting guys at running back. There seems to be several options. So I think and then they have a number of defensive linemen. So I think this is a year, and this is the positive for MSU. Like, there are years where injuries have decimated them, and last year was one of them. This should not be a year where that easily can happen. Now, there are years where it's just one thing after another, and eventually you're in trouble. But they ought to have enough, because there will be injuries. They ought to have enough to withstand and not really drop all that much.
SJ, you get to kick one school out of the Big 18. Who you booting? Well, I want to say Northwestern, but I feel like that's going to be like a bye week for at least 5 to 10 years to come, right?
Yeah, and it's Chicago, a trip. I want Northwestern.
Yeah, but you're talking for yourself.
Or fans. Fans in the Chicago market. There are lots of alums who live in Chicago. They don't want Northwestern gone. Purdue. See, I like Purdue. People don't like Purdue.
People don't like Purdue?
I like Purdue. I don't
mind Purdue. I guess I couldn't say that I like Purdue, but I don't mind Purdue, and I wouldn't want to see him go, I guess. I don't know. I don't think it would be any of the current Big Ten teams, right?
It would be Rutgers, probably.
Really?
I mean,
because you hate New Jersey.
It's not.
See, I can't tell whether it's personal to your travel or it's actually what you think would be right.
It's the least college-y trip. It's the least for anybody. I mean, it's just, I don't know. Rutgers doesn't really fit. Although, again, if you're a Michigan State fan and you're asked this question, you want to kick out Ohio State. In other words, you don't want teams like Rutgers and Northwestern gone. You want, an easier path. So
yeah, but I want to get good and beat Ohio State, though.
Okay, so
I really wouldn't want to.
So you just need one less. So you kick out Michigan?
Never. You can't do that.
Michigan State
Send
fans
them
would
where?
kick out Michigan. That's what they would do. They would say, "This is for the way you've treated us for all these years." That would be the play.
Mojo Jojo next. Can you adopt your grad school's team as your own, even if they're a rival? My 60s MSU era grandparents, one on the football team, one in the band, may shun me for wearing Notre Dame or Michigan attire, as would my inner Spartan.
I think you like who you like, and if the connection is organic and real, then you let that take. I mean, there's
who do you like more? I guess right.
Right,
That's who you'd pick.
But the problem is if your secondary teams are sort of rivals with your primary team, how do you handle that? Handle however you want to handle it. I mean, not everybody has to hate Michigan, has to hate Notre Dame, or has to.
By the way, what a great problem to have, to be that smart and have multiple degrees.
No, it's a really good deal. No, I would not worry about it. If your fandom is probably more organic than a lot of people's fandom of a lot of things, and so I would.
Can you wear like all three?
Well, that gets weird.
I know.
But you can show up to a lot of different tailgates, Well, yeah.
Mojo, is there any reason why we can't just do this Big Ten Monster Conference for football only, the same way Notre Dame stays independent for football but is in the ACC for everything else? I don't see why student athletes in sports with more games and more travel should have to do this unnecessarily.
I mean, I people keep saying we might be headed that way. I don't know what that looks like. The Big Ten's not going to split. And
can I say I really just thought it was for football? Like I thought basketball, like it still wouldn't be the Big Ten, obviously. But I've just figured
you didn't think Oregon and USC were coming? There is an argument that you keep the Pac-12 for everything else, but the Pac-12 those are football schools first and foremost. So that's where it gets weird. And I mean it is an ideal. I don't know how this is going to shake out. And what's going to be very interesting is, are people really unhappy in a few years with what's happening? And I'm not just talking about football. I'm talking about administrators and student athletes and just unhappy. And what happens then? I'm very curious as we start to get to the end of the current media rights deal with the Big Ten towards 2030, what sort of things are decided. And the thing you have to also remember is different people will be in leadership. Every time there's a lot of turnover with presidents right now. Most of these presidents who are in place will be dead by 2030. I don't know, dead, but they'll be retired. A lot of athletic directors won't be in place. The commissioner might be a different person. There will be different minds of what to do, and so who knows what will actually happen. And different TV executives and the media landscape in terms of streaming and what who's willing to pay for what may be very different as well.
Mojo Jojo, why wouldn't the Big Ten want Cal and Stanford? 6th largest TV market, tons of wealthy alums working at tech companies, both prestigious brands academically and occasionally athletically.
Yeah, I mean, it's what they don't bring anything in terms of television, and people don't care about TV markets anymore. It's about the size of the rating you can bring in to big games.
And don't Stanford alums or guys like Tiger Woods only come around when you win, right? I mean,
well, that's fair, but it's the best sports school in the country in terms of overall sports by far. I mean, more Olympians come out of Stanford than anything else, and so I think there's value in Stanford. I think there's value in, and if to get Stanford, getting Cal, like I think there's more value than the TV market. And if the Big Ten had the cojones on this, they would just tell their TV partners, look, we're going to do this. We're going to take Cal and Stanford too, and you're going to have to deal with that, and we need you to step up and give the same shares you're giving to Oregon and Washington right away, because we think there's other things they bring, especially Stanford. But the TV executives are running things, and they don't want this.
Mojo, can we get a listener poll for who should step in as y'all's alternates? Excuse me. I'd go for Dominic as Graham and the Medawar Jewelers lady filling in for Jason reading the questions. Her voice is haunting. Medawar in Okimos. Dominic, I don't want Dominic doing this show. He'll probably get more listeners than us.
Totally Wally Pippas. Yeah,
screw that. Corey Ostrom next. With Notre Dame pushing for Stanford and Cal, should the Big Ten be more aggressive to lock up Stanford in order to lure Notre Dame into the Big Ten? The more of their rivals, the better. Cal has no value.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, Notre Dame and Stanford is the ideal pairing in a lot of ways to me. But Notre Dame has stood firm on this, and at a certain point, you cut bait. Notre Dame, I forget it was one of our listeners the other day, or where this is in my head right now. But Notre Dame is really, you go back to them pushing off the Big Ten and saying we want to be independent. I mean, if they had joined the Big Ten, I don't know that the Big Ten would have kept expanding the way they have, because they'd have that brand. You can argue Texas with the SEC really precipitated all of this. There are lots of places to look at for what really got it going, and if you want to place
how long, I don't know if you know this off the top of your head, but how long is NBC's contract with Notre Dame?
They're signing a new one, and I don't know that that's been decided, because the one is just about up. And they're supposed to get a fairly decent package, though, out of it. They really don't need the conference.
Because that's really why they're independent.
Totally.
And I can't blame them for getting just independent money from NBC.
If they were making, if they could only get $20 million on their next deal from NBC or something like that, they would join a conference.
Yeah. Corey Ostrom. Why hasn't the NCAA and new president, Charlie Baker, attempted to get control of their ship with all the realignment, NIL, and transfer portals? They are the only entity that can do anything about this.
Well, the NCAA controls less and less, especially in football. And it's a good question why they don't try and flex a little more. They're trying to do certain things right now with the transfer portal. They're denying waivers. They're basically, and some people with decent cases for a second transfer. I think that's going to become a thing. The NCAA is really going to step in until there's lawsuits or other things that maybe we get to, no restrictions on transfers. But they're trying to step in with the one-time transfer thing pretty hard right now. They only have certain, the courts are going to decide all this. NIL is not a product. NIL is something the NCAA has accepted because they were going to lose in court, and they were. And realignment, this is the conferences. They can't. Look, I'm still waiting for the point that teams tell the NCAA to fuck off. Like, in other words, the NCAA will say, hey, your coach is suspended for 4 games, and Michigan will say, no, he's not. He'll be on the sidelines. Good luck with that. What are you going to do, bring security here and take him off? I don't think so. I'm waiting for the day that I think it could happen without, in certain sports, mostly football, and I don't know that they'd have any recourse.
Next one from Corey is a hostile takeover of the College Football Playoff Committee by the NCAA appropriate?
Taking over? No, I don't. Would the committee, the NCAA do any better than the committee? No, it's not going to happen. No, I don't believe so.
David Cox next. Noah Kim is fast. He has the exact frame as Johnny Football. Same arm strength. We don't know about him, like Johnny's freshman year. He wins like Johnny. Can he improvise? Why is Kim Sanity not Johnny Football 2.0? P.S. Watch Silo and Severance before football starts.
Why before football starts? We've got lots of time with this writer's strike. You got all the time in the world to watch everything. You're not going to have any new content for a while, other than football. And Noah Kim, if he's really good, the Kim Sanity line, he could take off. He's a kid who I think people will like. I think there will be, because of the 2 guys that are below him, there will always be a segment of the fan base that's when are they going to go to Caton Hauser? What's Sam Levitt's future? And those 2 guys are really promising prospects. But I think people could get behind Kim Sanity. He's just got to win, And, if I think a Kim Sanity groovy donut, that sounds amazing to me.
But I was watching that documentary, and I'm like, we really don't know about Noah Kim. And I was watching Johnny Football and that whole thing. I'm like, hey, why can't it happen again, right? Bo McJunkins next. Do you think people are honest with themselves when it comes to how low things had really gotten for MSU's talent-wise in 2019? This was a bigger rebuild than many wanted to admit. A few nice pieces, horrible depth.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder if D'Antonio didn't realize it too, and part of the reason he retires, because keep in mind, he doesn't know COVID's coming when he retires early in February of 2020. And I do think that he looked around and what they had and what it was going to take to rebuild, and knew he didn't have the energy to do it. And it's in a rough place. I mean, I think Mel Tucker knew it in 2020. And you could tell it as he started to discover it. And I think he was trying to be diplomatic about it to some degree, but not entirely. I mean, he's been pretty blunt. But I think what's hard to sort of rationalize or really understand is how the team that we saw on the field against Ohio State in early October, late September, whatever it was, of 2019, it was the last time Michigan State really battled them. It was like a quarter and a half where, other than a couple turnovers, the offense moved the ball a little bit. The defense was giving Ohio State grief, playing them toe-to-toe. The year before, they had really done it defensively. Like, how do you go from that to a year later the program doesn't have anything? Like, how does that happen? And I do think there are probably guys that were run out of the program or left because they didn't feel welcome when Mel Tucker's group took over that could have been helpful. And maybe if they had to go over and do it again, they would have tried to convince a few kids to stay. I don't know. But it definitely, you start to look at some of the talent, even with the 2020 class. I've talked to some of those guys about it, and I'm going to do a story on them at some point. Just there are only about 10 of those guys left, if that. I mean, it's a small group of guys from a class that was recruited at the end of the Antonio era.
Bo McJunkins next. I know they don't care, but has anyone asked some of these conference leaders if they know how the fans feel about all of this and that many hate this?
Yeah, I mean,
I would just give a spin zone answer. And
I think they have to realize they can't be that obtuse. Like
but they also know it's money that's involved, so they can't do anything about it.
They don't have complete control, and some of them, yeah, it's a good question. Why, because
would you get a real answer? That's the question.
The argument is that this is best for fans because ultimately the money that's driving this is going to create more opportunities for many of their programs and many of their teams. Look, there is value in the money Michigan State is getting for these media rights deals, and there's no question about that. And it may improve some programs that people like. So, the volleyball team, the softball team, the women's basketball, able to spend at a different level on coaching and other things. These are things that people care about and are helped by the new media rights deal.
Next one from Bo. Is this a year where Michigan's arrogance cost them a few games? I mean, not Donovan Edwards is comparing himself to Walter Payton. By the way, has he been to the museum yet?
I've not heard of any trips to the museum.
Blue
Holocaust
Wall.
Museum, yeah. Did he compare himself to Walter Payton? Was that today or something? Jeez. It's not a great...
Let's hear the context, though.
Yeah.
Who do you compare?
Totally.
You got to say something.
Right. No, it's the people I've compared myself to on a basketball court. It's criminal. Yeah, it's
fucking
not
endless.
Yeah, it's brutal. So teams can get complacent. There are teams that are set up, you think, for great seasons, and they don't have that edge to them that they've had when they're trying to prove it. I don't sense that that'll happen to this Michigan group, but you never know. I'm not around them on a day-to-day basis, and often that's a hard vibe to really sense anyway. They seem to have good leadership. A lot of guys who are back. I think having Blake Corum back is really helpful. A guy who was hurt and missed a lot of last year, and so he'll be driven, and he's a leader on that team. But you never know. I wouldn't call it arrogance. I would call it complacency, and that sometimes happens.
Rich Searing next. Any word on Darius Snow? Will he play this season?
My gut is he doesn't, because he's not back yet. He's not ready. He's doing some workouts, but he's not like in full playing mode. It's pretty serious knee injury, and if I had a hunch, and I don't know this, nobody said this, and I don't think they know exactly. My guess is he does not play.
Next one from Rich. What about our place kicker and punter? Any updates?
Big foot and on the kicker. I mean, that's what he's known for, right? He can boot the ball through the end zone, but hasn't taken a lot of.
Who is it?
It's the what the fuck is his name? Hold on,
Hoff. I thought his name was Bigfoot.
Jonathan Kim. It's the other Kim. I knew that.
All right.
Just like sorry.
What about the punter? I saw Bryce Behringer last night for the Patriots, just booming them.
He's good. Are
we going to miss them? Miss him
yes,
this
I think
year,
so. And I think Behringer especially. I mean, he's just a guy who was phenomenal for a couple of years and critical to what they were doing.
He's got a big foot. Rich Searing, who's your pick for the national title preseason? Georgia.
You have to say Georgia at this point, right? I mean, they've been the best program a couple years in a row. And they've got a good point in recruiting right now too. People can say, well, you don't have a great opportunity to play there right away, or it's hard to win a starting job. But their point is, you come here, the guys you're playing against in practice are better than anybody we're going to play, just about. And so if you're trying to get yourself better to get to the NFL, you only need a season of actually being on the field. All your development's going to happen in practice. And it's an interesting point.
Spooky season savant next. After the recent Phil Mickelson story, what would you do to prevent your stats of how many times you wagered and how much your losses total will be released in a book? I tell you what, if it's only $100 million after I've changed hands $1 billion, I think that's pretty decent, right?
Is that what the number was for him?
The number, Billy Walter, whose books comes out later this month. He's known as the best sports gambler ever, right? And he did bets with Phil Mickelson, and so that book is coming out where he's trying to trash Mickelson because Billy Walters did, 2 years in prison because of Phil Mickelson not kind of having his back and testifying. So I could, the $400,000 on the Ryder Cup, like I saw that story, and I'm like, Billy Walters lost his daughter when he was in prison to suicide. So I'm saying, is he making up that? Because Phil Mickelson denies the Ryder Cup story. I don't think he denies anything else. So I was kind of like, would he really bet $400K on the Ryder Cup?
Well, and that's Phil Mickelson's credibility, is that he's not shying from most of it. Right. So when there's a specific story that you deny, then you have to question it.
But you also you can understand Billy Walters' side, too, of wanting to kind of get back, and this is a perfect way to kind of jab back at Mickelson, right?
I saw a tweet of an excerpt, and I'm not sure what it was from, and so I probably shouldn't share it, but I'm going to anyway at this point. But it was about one of the broadcasters in the CBS booth who would put up a number of fingers. He would signal to
Gary McCord.
Gary McCord. He would signal to Mickelson about like a 3-putt, 2-putt, and how much money they were going to wager. And then you talked about throwing crumpled $20 bills down from the booth.
Mickelson was just there was a video that came out recently with Bryson DeChambeau.
I saw that.
Where he's like, no, we're betting something on this.
What are we playing for?
He
goes, I hadn't thought about that. He goes, what do you mean you haven't thought about it?
But here's the thing, is Phil Mickelson can afford it.
Right.
Like, if that's what you want to do and lose $100 million, I don't really give a shit. It's the people that are in despair and stealing shit to pay other things off. If Phil Mickelson wants to gamble his money away, fuck it. Who cares? Because
Phil didn't make his money gambling, so he has money to gamble. That's the thing. You're never gonna become rich gambling.
And some shorted stocks, apparently.
Yeah. But you can have a lot of fun, by the way, and download the Firekeepers iCasino and Sportsbook app. And if you play within your means, you'll enjoy yourself.
Spooky season savant. By the way, if you're betting on yourself in a golf event, though, it's not really that big of a deal. It's like a team sport. I know Ryder Cup's a team sport. But are you going to play any differently because you have $400K on it? I think you're going to play the same way. But
as long as you're betting on yourself and not yourself to miss the cut.
True. Spooky season. Is 10-7 a disappointment for the Lions at this point?
What do you think?
Yes. With all of the hype that they're getting and people that I respect in the national media are putting their names on the line for this Lions team, I think 10-7 would be a disappointment.
10-7, you win the division, you win a playoff game. Is that a disappointing season?
No. 10-7 is just obviously a record after the regular season. I'm okay with if we back into the playoffs. However we got to do it. Get to the playoffs. I can forget 10-7. You lose in the first round, it's a disappointment.
By the way, if you're going to watch the Lions every week, you need to have Groovy Donuts, right? This we've been through this, but you need to have something to sort of give you some comfort when things go wrong. Groovy Donuts will do that. You can get your little Detroit Lions Groovy Donuts. They'll do that for you. Just get a great assortment. You can get all 18 Big Ten teams, logos on each. Monica's happy to do that for you. Go to groovydonuts.com or go to either location on Lake Lansing Road in East Lansing or in Williamson. Open 7 a.m. to 1 p.m. Thursday through Sunday. Let's take a really quick break. We get back more of your Groovy Donut Twitter questions. Couch in the Roop.
Where else can you cheer on your team? Enjoy a mouth-watering burger or savory sushi. Sip on handcrafted cocktails or one of 46 beers on tap. Take your game day or date night to Cask & Company Kitchen Bar or Front 43 Neighborhood Pub near Frandor. Two amazing places with one awesome blended modern American-Asian menu. Catch the game on one of 30 60-inch TVs or stop in for the all-you-can-eat lunch buffet. Enjoy happy hour or elevate your night out at Cask & Company or Front 43 on East Saginaw in Lansing. If you're looking forward to cool summer nights at the lake or backyard gatherings, make Muskox's spring and summer flannel collection part of your summer experience. Muskox's lighter weight 3 Seasons flannel is perfect for warmer weather without sacrificing Muskox's noted softness or high quality. Plus, Muskox donates 10% of every $100 purchased to the Alaska Wildlife Conservation Center. Visit GoMuskox.com to find the absolute best flannel for you and use our promo code CAW15 for $15 off your flannel order. Trust us, you've never felt more comfortable than you will in a Muskox flannel.
Christmas is around the corner and beautiful jewelry is on her Christmas list. So where will you go to buy that gorgeous diamond ring or that sparkly diamond necklace or that incredible diamond bracelet? Medawar Jewelers' 4 locations by the Lansing Mall by Meridian Mall in Jackson and in Portage have the largest selection and the latest designs of beautiful jewelry that she's been dreaming of. If an engagement ring is on your mind, come into Medawar Jewelers and let our professional staff explain to you all about natural and lab-created diamonds. Our diamonds are set by master jewelers whose passion for their art.
Firekeepers Online Casino and Sportsbook is the site to play. Get your Vegas on right now from your phone, tablet, or laptop. All the hottest slots and tables, plus sports betting featuring in-game wagering. Download the app at firekeeperscasino.com. Go with the name you know. Firekeepers. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 or older and located in Michigan. Gambling problem? Call the Michigan Problem Gambling Helpline at 1-800-270-7117. Come enjoy irresistible, award-winning, handcrafted donuts and locally roasted coffee at Groovy Donuts. Surprise your family or coworkers with special holiday designs and flavors, or put the perfect finishing touch on an event with a custom order. Birthdays, weddings, gender reveals, our friends at Groovy Donuts are your answer. Experience the Groovy Donuts difference for yourself on Lake Lansing Road in East Lansing or in Williamston. Get more information or place an order at groovydonuts.com.
Find Couch in the Rube podcasts on Spreaker, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, YouTube, Facebook, Google Podcasts, CastBox, and the Rube's favorite podcast addict.
Couch in the Rube, presented by our friends at Firekeepers Casino and the Firekeepers iCasino and Sportsbook app. Download the app today. Bet the games. We are betting this weekend. The Premier League is back. The Lions in the preseason. Lose some parlays on baseball. That's always fun as well. Also, yeah. And we are also on Fridays sponsored by our friends at Groovy Donuts. Start every weekend with a donut. I'll probably get some donuts for the Premier League. Just sit there with a box, cut them in half, share them with my wife tomorrow. First of all, it's a great way to eat 6 Groovy Donuts. Like, I wouldn't ever advise eating 6 at once, but if you get an assortment of 6 and you cut them up and you just have a couple bites of each, you're really only having like a donut and a half, and you get a bit of everything. That's my favorite.
That's what you're telling yourself?
That's what I'm telling myself. Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah. Groovy Donuts, 7 a.m. to 1 p.m. Thursday through Sunday, Lake Lansing Road in East Lansing, and also in Williamson. All right, back to your Groovy Donuts sort of question.
Last one from Spooky Season Savant. Any word on a Meet the Spartans this year?
You know, I haven't heard anything. I don't think they did one last year, right? They did sort of an open practice. I don't even remember. I mean, it's all a blur, but I don't think that's a thing they're really doing right now. But hold on, give me some help. I apologize.
Free Uber.
Yeah, they did it in 21. I don't think they did it in 22. So I don't know that that's going to continue to be a thing.
Brian Mahoney next. Graham has stated on the show that he stares at people's thighs. So after going to MSU football practice as a noted thigh guy, who is your first team all-thigh team for the squad this year?
It's a great question. It's really, we're only in there for 20 minutes or so at a time, and they're in pads, so you don't know how real those thighs are.
Could you convince your boss at the LSJ to write something about the all-thigh team?
You wouldn't do it in football because everybody has good thighs. It's like soccer, right? Basketball is where you get the guys whose thighs are so thin that they can't they're not quick enough. They can't jump. It limits their athletic ability and who they can become.
Professor, next, if you played in the Little League World Series at your current age, what would your batting average be?
What do you think yours would be? Oh, you don't have great.
I have one good eye, but
Yeah.
I think, dude, I think I could hit one of those kids. I'm not saying I would have a great batting average, but
So what are they topping out at that age? Like 70 miles an hour?
Little League?
Yeah, 12 and under.
Jesus, like Danny Almonte?
Yeah, higher than that? Because they were
Lower. I thought it was lower than that.
They were throwing in the 60s when I was like 12 and under.
Oh.
And that was like locally. So I'm wondering if at that level, maybe it's like 70.
Shit, then I guess I won't hit anything then.
I mean, it depends how much they're throwing curveballs. So I would
These
do
kids
this.
juicing? What the fuck? How do you pitch that fast? And what are they, 12?
Yeah, as long as they're not throwing curveballs, I think I could hit, fairly decent hand-eye coordination, all that. I my batting average would be in the high fours. I would say. If they throw curveballs, I couldn't hit anything. But then I would also complain that it's not right for kids of that age to be throwing curveballs, so I'd throw a fit
Wait,
on the
so you're
field.
saying that you would hit 400?
If they're only throwing fastballs and they're 12-year-olds.
Who has a 12-year-old that we can do this or somehow to see if you could hit a
That throws at an
12-year-old?
elite level?
Well, he throws at a good throws 50, 55. I guess if that's the average, I guess I don't watch enough Little League World Series to know. I thought it was their fastball was a little lower than that, but
Well, hold on.
Shit.
People want to know this, so let's hoff this up. Hold on.
let's hoff this up. Hoffed it up too much.
Oh, yeah. All right, so the average fastball in the majors division of the Little League, 11 to 13, was 50 to 60. The Little League World Series, it's 60 to 70 plus. Yeah, I can.
Damn.
430.
Before you hit puberty, you can throw a 70-mile-per-hour fastball.
Well, some of those kids have already hit puberty.
That's what I mean.
That's
Like,
the
what
thing.
are we checking IDs?
Yeah, we should. Yeah.
Nice mustache, kid. Professor, if you only got to choose one of the new NCAA leagues to watch for all sports, which would it be? Well, Big Ten, I guess.
Yeah.
Mega conference.
It would be the 18-team Big Ten, right? I mean, that's it, because that's where our interest is. We're Big Ten people. Yeah, that's it.
TT, to both of you, what's the biggest scoop you've ever had? I didn't know. I have to answer?
Yeah.
What the biggest scoop?
Have you ever had a big scoop?
Do you remember when Mateen Cleaves, they got in trouble in like some 7-Eleven and I think someone peed in the 7-Eleven?
Okay.
Back in, was it 2000?
Yeah.
Or 99, I think it was. And Johnny Renshaw, I used to love, I mean, I still do. I love sports radio, but I did back then even more. And Johnny Renshaw was on Sporting News Network. So I called into the show like a little rat that I was, at, I think 19 years old, and told the story about Mateen getting arrested. And I have the tape somewhere, and it's just, it hurts my balls to like when I listen to it.
That is a story we're telling, presented by our friends at Midtown Brewing Company, 402 South Washington Avenue. If you're looking for a date night this weekend, just a drink, or a place, underrated place to watch a game as well. Outstanding menu, outstanding drink selection. They got brunch on Sundays. Go to midtownbrewing.net to check out more. And again, 402 South Washington Avenue in downtown Lansing. It's a good question. I was trying to think about some of the I've had a few that got, were big enough deals that they it's
got
not
blue
going to
walled
mind.
on it?
No. What I mean is like they got some national spin, or some national attention, or things that were big on the beat. And I
Or
think,
a Michigan plane goes off the runway.
yeah, there was something I did with Dontrell Willis in 2008 when I was the backup Tigers beat writer too that I got, and I'm trying to remember what that was. It's funny.
When Dontrell was with the Tigers?
Yeah, he was around you remember he was traded
Was he
with
terrible with the
tra-
Tigers, though? What scoop did you have? That he was going to get let go? Or?
He was awful. He wasn't talking to the media, and I think I got him for a minute. I cornered him in the locker room, and I was able to get him when I was 28.
I love Dontrell.
Yeah, and there've been a couple other things, and my tired brain is not
Yeah.
processing
Someone
them
gets
fast
couch
enough.
some food. What's going on here?
It's more. Well, we had a softball party last night at our house after our season ended. We finished second place, big trophy.
Oh, nice.
It was very
Congrats,
nice.
man.
But yeah, and then my wife had an 8 a.m. Oil change appointment that I was unaware of. So yeah, it's just
Everybody go.
rough start to the day.
Why would you schedule it at 8 a, though?
That's
your work, right?
She apologized for that too. We didn't realize it until midnight last night. I was like, "Oh,
Wait, so second place trophy?
Oh, it's the best. It's huge. It's great.
The second place trophy is huge.
And the second time that we've won a huge second place trophy as a softball team. We won one
and
in
you celebrate that.
2014. Oh, hell yeah.
Is there a third place trophy?
I don't think so. I think they do
Interesting.
first and runner up. Yeah. It's only a 6-team league, so you don't
like
wanna go
Wimbledon, where you go out and you have to stand there with a second place trophy.
Yeah, we were gonna like drink out of it like the Stanley Cup and do things like that. Yeah.
TT, have you ever played Immaculate Grid? Damn near impossible. I wonder if my 15-year-old baseball card collecting self would get it. You know, I went on this Immaculate Grid, and there's so many fucking pop-ups that I couldn't even. It's like a trivia app or a website or something.
I don't know anything about it. I've never even heard of it.
Yeah,
it's
I tried it.
And by the way, I apologize for not having a better answer on the scoop thing. I've had a few that just don't like. I can sort of remember the feeling of them, and different circumstances. But anyway,
it's so great when your brain is on the last question, the previous question, and as I'm talking to you, you can just tell it's just like there's nothing going on.
I feel bad. It's like
I can just hear your head.
I should
like,
have better ready examples because
ever.
I've had 3 or 4 decent ones in my career, and
that's what I figured. That's why I'm like, let's get couch something to eat or an edible. Jesus,
well, re-ask that next show, and I'll come with some oomph.
TT, any chance Garrick Norman red shirts for his own eligibility?
I mean, there's always a chance. Not a lot of guys do it anymore. I don't think he'll want to, but and I think he's somebody who will be ready to contribute in some way. But you're right, there are going to be limited minutes just based on the numbers. So it's always a possibility, and it really, for a kid like that, depends on, the problem with redshirting these days is most kids don't think they're 4-year guys to begin with. So convincing somebody that a redshirt is valuable when they're not planning to be around in 5 years, what's the advantage to that? So that would be, unless he's a real special kid in that standpoint, I would think you would not, because they usually make it. They may present that opportunity to a kid, but they don't force the kid to do that too. It's sort of up to the kid.
Mean Joel Green next. Was Solari boring you enough to have to fight off a yawn for a full 10 seconds, 29-24 mark, during Spartan Speak, or were you fighting off donut indigestion? Time to bring back Kilbridge or Phil? I have this, by the way. Let's listen to it.
Okay.
Michigan State defense yet, but for Mel Tucker's entire career at this point, and a lot of this is personnel based.
This is 29-24.
They've done enough to hang on there. It's been bend but don't break, even when they've been decent. There have been very few games where you went, wow, the defense really kept them in this one. And I think this is sort of a year
this
where
is
that
awful
needs
though.
to,
Jesus,
it's 29-24, right? Or
yeah,
is this
but
the wrong one?
No, it's probably right. What happens though sometimes is different people have different commercial settings at the beginning, so it gets off. That I've noticed that on podcasts a lot, that you put down the exact time and it's like a minute off sometimes, because what they think it's the right time of the podcast, but in terms of your listening, it'd be like a minute off or something like that.
Sorry, I tried. Mean Joel.
That was a horrible stretch. Is that how we sound on Spartan Speak? Good God, how does anybody? No, I'm kidding. We actually got new audio equipment that's been ordered and coming to Spartan Speak. We're going to sound like pros, which won't do anything for the.
How long have you guys been doing it?
Oh, Kilbridge started. It's like 2015.
Wow.
So yeah, we've been going along. We probably should have upped our game a while back.
Mean Joel, can Groovy Donuts do savory donuts? What would it be?
They can do any kind of donut you want, but savory,
not any donut,
right?
Like the pea soup donut that someone mentioned.
They don't really. I mean, donuts by their nature aren't really savory, but I bet they could do it. They just don't do it. In other words, they tend to do donuts that are sweeter and
I'm so bummed that Spartan Speak thing didn't work.
Yeah,
shit, I was so excited.
Sorry,
it's not your fault.
What would it be? A savory donut wouldn't be split. It would be something like a French onion soup donut. That would be.
Naturally,
I would eat that. Yeah.
Mark Snyder next. Whatever happened to the Common Ground Music Festival, and can we get something like it back in this town?
Yeah, it just kind of went the way of I thought it was. I don't even know when it ended, because it was going on when I was here, and then all of a sudden it was done.
We were talking about that last night. Like, what happened to Common Ground? Like, is that this year?
Yeah, no, it got smaller and smaller. And let me see the last year. Give me some Hoff again. Let me see the last year they had it.
I follow local news, and I didn't hear about it.
Free Uber.
All right. So there is a 2023 Common Ground, I think. I thought, well.
Did we kill it and it's coming back?
Yeah. What's going on? When is this? Common Ground, September 10th. There's Common Ground. It's coming back. It's back, baby.
So it went away. I didn't know.
That's 2021. Sorry.
Jesus.
Sorry, 2021 was the last year. I don't know what happened. It was probably written about in the Lansing State Journal, and I missed it. It's not great by me.
The excitement I had for Common Ground coming back.
Apologies.
Unbelievable. Mark Snyder next. What celebrity is you and your spouse's celebrity crush, a.k.a. Hall Pass?
How about you? What you got here with you and Therese?
Is it weird that my wife has like 4?
If I were married to you, I would have 6.
I don't blame her. Chris Helmsworth, Hugh Jackman, Ryan Reynolds, and Rob Thomas from Matchbox 20.
Ryan Reynolds is one of mine, too, with my wife.
Right.
Not hers.
Yeah. Does she have more than Ryan Reynolds, though?
No, Ryan Reynolds is not one of hers. It's mine.
Oh, it's yours. That's even weirder.
Yeah, mine is like Ryan Reynolds, Ryan Gosling, anybody named Ryan, and then a bunch of other women.
So you're bisexual then?
I'm just saying I'm attracted to these men in the shows that in the movies that they're in. That's all. That's all I'm saying.
That's your Hall Pass?
No. That's no. We've never had this real conversation. She does not talk about that, and we don't have any.
Why not?
I don't know.
Who's yours? I mean, for real, like a female celebrity.
Oh, Rachel McAdams is one. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, without question.
So you don't tell. She doesn't know that.
Well, we watch a lot of Rachel McAdams movies.
And you have your pants off?
Yeah, so that probably gives it away.
Of course, mine's Carmen Electra. Next from Mark Snyder. Is Jason challenging Joey Chestnut to his own personal hot dog swallowing challenge? The tweet included, apparently, a picture of a guy who looks like Jason with his hand on Joey Chestnut's shoulder talking to him. That really looked like me?
It did. I saw the photo. I was like, oh, my God, Jason was... For a minute, I was like, oh, Jason was there wearing a Lugnuts jersey.
We did go to the game last night. We were there. It was amazing. Joey Chestnut ate 13 olive burgers in 5 minutes.
That's incredible.
It was really disgusting to watch him eat. It was like watching you eat, kind of.
Yeah.
But he was doing it for a competition. Now, here's the question, Graham. How much did the Lugnuts pay
Right.
Joey Chestnut? I'll tell you what I think. I think it's $5,000.
Okay.
The whole thing. Like, he gets a hotel, goes down, he does the challenge, and the line was wrapped around to meet and greet with Joey Chestnut. It was wild. It was a beautiful night last night. It was fun.
It's amazing. I mean, if you're Joey Chestnut, I don't know what the market is for you. You can probably do a lot of those things throughout the summer.
Oh my God,
to make a lot of money.
I would be constantly doing those.
Yeah, for $5,000 a night. That's
for
a great
5 minutes, and you hammer burgers, and then you get people come by and want your autograph.
Yeah, no. Is the guy who finished third in the mashed potato eating contest in the 2009 Irish Fest. I know what it's like to be a celebrity eater. And
could we now, if we could find out Joey Chestnut's fee, I would wonder, like Groovy Donuts, how many could he hammer in 5 minutes? Obviously, we would have to GoFundMe the $5,000, whatever he charges.
Yeah, and are there types of food that he won't do because of like the sugar and the intake? You know what I mean? Like, that's a good question.
I think that dude, he eats everything, right?
So I did 10 in 9 minutes. That's the record to beat. I think you could do it.
Oh God,
yeah,
I think you would. Neurotic Pants next. How much of an advantage will it be to host jet-lagged West Coast teams in the Big Ten? Is that why ESPN thinks MSU will beat Washington? Who on ESPN?
I think it's like a one of those auto tracker type index thingamajigs. I don't think that. It's a home game, so that might be why. I don't know what the line is. I have not seen a line yet for that game. I would not go with what ESPN is saying here.
By the way, T just told me Joey Chestnut will not eat oysters.
Okay, so there's that.
There's oysters.
Yeah. All right, that's good. That's good to know. Yeah, I do not think the jet lag. I mean, they'll come early if they have to. Now, if they have to do it repeated weeks and that sort of becomes a thing, you never know. But I think if they're coming out once every 3 weeks, they're going to start coming out Thursdays. They're going to get early. They're going to, the noon games will be interesting. But I don't think the MSU Washington thing is just weird because nothing based on the end of last season, even on the road, suggests that should be the result.
Neurotic Pants, who do you think will win the Zuckerberg-Musk fight? Excuse me.
I don't think it'll happen because neither one of those guys wants to get hit in the face.
Isn't Musk, doesn't he have some back problem that's postponing this thing?
I'm sure he does.
I don't know if I give a shit.
No, I don't either.
I
would like to see each of them punch each other, though.
That's true. Maybe I'll watch now. Neurotic Pants, would either of you fight an MMA bout for $10,000? Hospitals are expensive.
No, not for 10. I need more than that.
I'd do 10.
Would you?
I'd take a dive. How long am I going to be out there for?
Yeah, do you have to do like a full 3 rounds?
Do I have to take a punch? I can take a dive.
Okay, you can't take a dive. You got to stand in there.
How do you know if I'm taking a dive or not? Do I have to bleed?
Yeah, you got to. Yeah, you got to.
Right.
Yeah,
I'll tap. I'll let him get me into whatever rear naked choke or something, and I'll just tap. $10K.
$50,000. I'd do it.
Go fund me. Let's do this. I know MMA guys. Dark Mantonio.
I don't want to fight actual MMA guys either. That's the other thing. That would suck.
Well, who would it be then? The one-legged lady that delivered your groceries that you hate?
Yes.
That'd be a fair fight.
By the way, I don't hate her.
And you get to take out so much aggression on her. You'd have a good time.
I would never hit her.
Dark Mantonio next. When gambling, do you bet only on value, even if the chance of winning is low, but payout is extremely high? Or just who you really have a strong belief in winning no matter what the value is? Because if it's just on value, that sounds dumb to me, even if it's only a little more money bet.
So, but value is, I mean, it may sound dumb, but value is what makes money. Like, value is the smart play. Like, I'll give you an example of this. I listen to a podcast for the Premier League and other soccer where they give out what they call their underdog parlay every week. It's 3 teams at long odds to win. And they don't usually hit. Like last year, they almost hit a couple times. And that's always fun. You get like the third leg of that parlay, you're like, oh my gosh. But they hit once, right before, I think it was Christmas, a 200-to-1 parlay. And if you had played that parlay, it covered all the rest of the whole year. You know what I mean? Like, you're not putting a lot of money. You're putting $5-10 on it every week.
Oh, I thought you were talking like 100.
No, I'm putting like $5-10 on it. But it's still like a $2,000 payout, you know. And so what I mean is that's great value. If you're getting good advice, you can lose, 29 of 30 weeks and still get value, and that makes sense. So no, I don't.
And it's hard to get value after numbers are out for a couple of days, right?
100%. Yeah,
they get battered back and forth the number. And
no, I like for me, I like to have an idea a team can win before I pick.
Also,
them.
gut feel bets are some of my favorites.
Yeah, and I don't use numbers as much as like the pros, and I'll listen to advice on things, but I know when pros are wrong sometimes. I've seen matchups. I've seen teams that aren't matchup proof, so to speak, that have a bad matchup, and the pros have it all wrong, and I know that, and numbers can be wrong, and they think there's value there, but I don't have a strong belief. I think it's a combination of things, but sometimes there's just great value, and value is partly, although often, I think, in the belief that a team can win. Like, even in those underdog parlays, they're not randomly picking underdogs. They're picking 3 teams they think they have a chance.
Dark Mantonio, the Big Ten just added 4 pretty good schools, good football schools. With those additions, I'm counting at least 7 schools ahead of MSU right now. So considering every team's realistic projections, where do you see MSU fitting in a league hierarchy for the next 3 to 4 years? In the 5 to 9 range? Top 4?
Well, I mean, if it's not in the top 4, that'll be a problem for, I think, Mel Tucker and his relationship with fans, because that's what they're hoping for and expecting. Now, keep in mind, in the conference starting next year is Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan, USC, Oregon, and that's 5 right there that are pretty big brands. And that's not to count Wisconsin, Iowa, Washington. So it is tough to get in that top 4, but that's what people want to eventually happen. Where do I see realistically? I think the 5 to 9 range wouldn't be horrible in an 18-team league if you're consistently in the top half. If you're pushing in the top 4 occasionally, I think that's not that bad. People won't be happy, though.
All right. Dark Mantonio. Is MSU cool with Curtis Blackwell now after all the Mark D'Antonio stuff with him?
I don't believe so, but I
would guess not.
Yeah, but I don't know that like Mel Tucker has an issue with him, and he's still got connections, and he's not a guy you want to have permanent beef with.
All right. Ken Chu next. What do you think about the news that the Big Ten is adding incarnate Word Fairly Ridiculous and Watts Amada U to the conference.
That would be incredible. Incarnate Word adding to the Big Ten would be
I would love it.
It would be incredible. Just be incredible. Some random trips to San Antonio, trying to build up a low major, do something for the little guy.
Incarnate Word multiple times.
Yeah. Terrific.
Ken Shu, is there a business opportunity in creating Big Ten charter air?
I don't know. It's a fair question.
If there were, wouldn't
it'd be done already?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like airlines would be on it.
Yeah.
Ken Shu, how happy is Sam Levitt that he didn't go to Washington State?
Probably pretty happy. I mean, that's going to feel like a mid-major very quickly, and that's too bad for that school. And I mean, there are no options for Washington State and Oregon State, I don't think.
Ben Gent, more conference football games versus more big boy programs and an expanded playoffs takes a much bigger toll on teenage bodies. Why isn't this a topic?
It will be at some point, and then it'll be a thing, but because right now everything's being driven by greed and money, and what's weird is all these school presidents that are so concerned about expanding too many games and the health of players and expanding in a second semester and what it does to the well-being of athletes. They're not thinking about that right now, and there's a hypocrisy, and they shouldn't have a voice in that stuff. Like, I think I wrote this in a column. Nobody in the Big Ten right now gets to be a moral authority on anything, really, in college football, because if that stuff mattered, if it was at the forefront, and I do think, because it matters, who you play matters and how your body feels. There's a difference between playing, a MAC school and playing a Big Ten school or playing a Pac-12 school, and it's why, like, I think Big Ten teams should play one Power 5 in the non-league, but they shouldn't play all Power 5s. Nobody should be doing that stuff, and they used to do it much more often. But that does take a toll on you. It'll look as it becomes a problem for somebody, it'll become a thing.
Ben Jen, don't you know that lighting a match solves bathroom stink problems? Take them when traveling with your partner. Yeah, but a match, like, you still need a courtesy flush because. There's a terrible stink, and then you light a match. It just sounds like a shit that was on fire for a minute.
Yeah, and
it doesn't really clear it out, right?
It doesn't. Yeah, it just doesn't solve the whole point when you're like 6 feet away from somebody and you're doing it. It's not good.
Just turn around and flush after you drop a log. It's not that hard.
Yeah, and hotels should just build really solid soundproof doors for bathrooms.
A fan, yeah,
and a fan. And
soundproof doors,
and have them away from the bed. That's all. That's all they should do. I would stay with you. If something like Hyatt or somebody else did that, I would give up my love for Marriott.
There you go, Hyatt. Ben Jen, love Kogels? Question mark.
I don't even know what Kogels is. No, I'm kidding. I've learned what Kogels is. I've done
Equalizer,
my research.
Kogels. Jesus. Cucker Tarlson next. Jason mentioned the Paul versus Diaz fight. What did you think about the result? I'm more of an MMA guy, so I'll be honest that boxing events tend to be snooze fest for me. I thought it was a mildly entertaining fight. Past year has made me respect Paul. Can't wait for the MMA debut. I never ordered it. I mean, it was like $60, and Jake Paul, I think, was minus 460, and I'm like, okay, this is obviously he's not going to get Jake Paul's going to get the decision or whatever happens, right? Yeah. Those guys just take a payday. I love Nate Diaz, but he had no shot. Next one from Cucker. Just bought my first house. Go to first homeowner tips. I'm 24 and the girlfriend is 26 and recent grads.
Just have fun with it. Don't try and do everything at once, but,
don't talk to your neighbors. Keep that separated.
No, see, I would say the opposite. Become friends with your neighbors.
No fucking way.
Especially if they're good
then you'll
people.
End up with guys like Couch that sit there and want to have a fucking neighborhood Yahtzee party.
Those are the best. Those are the best.
Don't
you
talk
want
to
that.
anyone.
Yeah. I would say befriend a neighborhood cat. You don't need to have a cat, but if you have a neighborhood cat that keeps mice, that's always good.
And a dog for protection, right?
Yeah, that would. But
cameras.
But yeah, I would say a couple things. They're more expensive than you think. Like, if you're budgeting for like the fun projects you want to do, budget a little extra for the shit that's going to go wrong, because it does. So that would be my other thing. Just be prepared. They can be a little bit of a money pit once in a while, but it's so worth it.
Couch on fire. Jason, I can't support pro players who use long putters. Do you agree? No, I mean, they look weird, but I feel like however you can get the ball into the hole, I don't really give a shit. You can have one that goes up to your forehead. Does it bother you, Graham?
No, not at all.
Right? I mean, it's just, it's a little weird and awkward, but
it's Yeah, I mean, if it was something that gave somebody a distinct, obvious advantage, and if they discovered that, like, this is something that turns out to be cheating you, like you make 30% more of your putts doing this than.
And some of those like Odyssey putters and Scotty Cameron putters, I mean, those things are almost I mean, if you look at them and the way of the pros, every ounce matters. I mean, those are kind of, is a tall putter cheating to you? I mean, there's so many things about golf equipment that you could look at and go, should players be using that? So Couch on Fire. Jason, who do you have for the FedEx Champ this year? Well, I would love Spieth, but Scotty Scheffler, and I know it's an obvious pick. He's just too tough. He's just too good. So I think I would take Scheffler, and then I would sprinkle some on Spieth right now. Couch on Fire. After Big Ten expansion, why would we keep a 2-game series with Michigan in basketball? Rather see one with Purdue or Wisconsin?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a fair comment. As much as there's a rivalry, I don't think Michigan State, and they want to beat Michigan, I don't think Michigan State fans necessarily enjoy, they don't enjoy Purdue either all the time, but I don't think the Michigan rivalry in basketball is as this thing that people sort of point to on the schedule and look forward to all year. It just sort of comes up and happens, then it's a big game. But it's going to be the rivalry, and it's all if you were ever to have one protected rival, it's going to be Michigan. But it doesn't mean that it will be. Like, there have been years where they've only played Michigan once. There have been years where they scheduled a non-conference game against Michigan to make up for that. I don't think they'll do it again. But I don't think in basketball anything's sacred. In football, the Michigan State rivalry will last.
Couch on Fire next. After Big Ten expansion, why would we keep a 2-game series? Oh, wait, I just read that. Hans Jurgen, usually you stop me.
I know, I was just seeing how far you can go.
Damn it. Hans Jurgen, if MSU goes 0-12, what should MSU's next course of action be? Dumping a Melting Moments into the Red Cedar, sacrificing a chicken on the steps of the agricultural building.
Yeah, 0-12 is rough because 0-12 would mean you lost to CMU and Richmond out of the gate. There's a lot of.
I'm sacrificing more than a chicken.
Yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot that went wrong. The reassessing of everything that you're doing would be from your coaching staff to who you're recruiting to. What the hell, man? Like I don't. Yeah, 0-12. Yeah, you don't. First of all, don't ever waste Melting Moments. But the agriculture building and a chicken sounds.
So
like
you'd rather kill a chicken than watch a Melting Moments ice cream sandwich go into the river?
100%.
Man. Hans Jurgen, what is the best way to get revenge on a beat writer? Giving them a scratchy lanyard?
You put some sort of like something on the lanyard and just the whole time you're itching. That's a good one.
No, I was thinking it was all your lanyard's all scratched. Don't you guys take those? Like, you guys love to have those around your neck. Was that what he's talking about?
Well, yeah, but if you put like something that was scratchy on the thing that goes around on the collar of it or whatever on the lanyard,
like poison ivy. Like, what do you?
Oh, that would be good. Poison ivy. That'd be a great way to get. Unplug. The best thing to do is like unplug a writer's computer and have them not realize it. Like on Press Row, just go down below and unplug it, and then they're getting close to file, and they look in their battery's like at 1%. It's about to
just
die.
Don't do it to Solari. He'll attack you.
Well, that's the fun one to do it to. And Solari I'm not. Yeah, I'm not going to mess with that.
I've seen in person. Hans Jurgen, has anyone ever accused you of simping? What does that mean? I'm probably.
Yeah, I worry about Googling these things.
Simping's not bad.
Okay. Simping involves giving too much attention and affection, whether through gifts, compliments, or acts of service, as a way of seeking validation from someone else. Oh, yeah, I simp all the time. That's my thing. I'm a simper. Nobody's ever accused me.
Are you going to walk in the room tonight and ask your wife if you can simp with her?
That's what we're going to do. We're going to simp and co-presence.
Hans Jurgen, what should I say the next time a Go Blow fan makes fun of a degree? How do I become less sensitive? How do I stop ruminating?
So nobody should make fun of any college degree. I don't even understand what that is, because you can get anywhere from anywhere, and smart kids go to all sorts of schools, and going to Michigan or going somewhere and it doesn't make you any better than anybody else or smarter than anybody else. Or
what about general studies, though? I mean, we can start there.
But that happens in Michigan does general studies for the people, too. Yeah, I mean, if you truly went to college for general studies, then you just wasted your time. So, yes.
Or you had a great time. Hans, I'll give you, if I give you a dozen Groovy Donuts, will you start following Mac football again? How about 2 dozen?
Yes, but I will. You don't need to bribe me to follow Mac football. I'll do it to a degree. I will never do it to the amount that I can make as much money as I once was able to gambling on.
You're fucking this up. Just say that you'll watch the Mac.
I'll watch the Mac for 2 dozen.
2 dozen?
Yeah, hell yeah.
It's good for everyone. Jake Hawkins next. Do you think the Big Ten Media Days will take place in Los Angeles, Las Vegas, and or Seattle?
No, but I do think the championship game could be there. What I mean is the Media Days, they want as many people to go as possible. And I understand a lot of people are going to be coming from a long ways, and so Indianapolis isn't as centrally located either. But Media Days is not a must-go-to. Like, if Media Days was really expensive, we wouldn't go. And so you're trying to get as big an audience to go, whereas the championship game, if you cover the team that's there, you're going to go wherever it is. So I think you'll see the Big Ten tournament in basketball out west a time or two as well. I mean, they've done that already. It's in Minneapolis this year.
So would you be furious if the LSJ sent you to, like, L.A. for the Big Ten Media Days?
I mean, I would turn it into a vacation of sorts. That would be all right.
I mean, you have to, right?
Yeah. If you're going to send me to L.A., I'd take my wife and we'd spend an extra few days.
But would you gripe, though?
Oh, yeah. Because that's what I do.
Of course.
Because I'm a pain in the ass.
Dumb question by me. Next one from the Hawk. What does the future hold for the Mid-American Conference?
I think it's an okay place. They weren't making any money before any of this, and they're a group of like-minded schools that are mostly a bus league where travel isn't that bad. Like they've kind of done it right. They haven't, gone out and added teams from the, down in the bayou or something, or done anything stupid. That, I don't know that the MAC will ever be a juggernaut, and I think, as long as there's a path to a Division I playoff for the mid-majors, I think they'll stay playing major conference football, even if I think they'd be better off focusing on basketball as a league.
Next one from Jake. Do you think that there should finally be a National College Athletic Czar? Someone that we could hate?
I mean, who would it be, and would they make the decisions that we like? That's the thing. Yes and no. Like, a czar is a pretty powerful person. And would they have actual power over the SEC? I doubt it. And would it be the right person? I don't know that would happen either. I mean, the Pac-12 thought they picked the last 2 commissioners right, and look what happened.
But money will seep into that as well eventually too, right?
Yeah, I don't.
Athletic czar.
It's just not going to happen because the schools, the members won't agree to it.
Last one from the Hawk. Are you a fan of the show Frasier?
Yeah, I was a huge fan of Frasier. Were you a Frasier fan?
I did watch Frasier, yeah.
It's a good show.
Yeah.
Very good show.
That was before the internet, though. So
yeah.
Jerk Guy, do you think that sometimes you're a blatherskite? Biatherskite.
All right, I'm not
Biatherskite.
Worried about Googling this, too. But it is a person who talks at great length without making much sense. I mean, that's yes. You keep it concise. Yes, that's exactly who I am.
So that should be the new name for the podcast.
I actually really like that.
Biatherskite.
Yeah.
With Jason Nick. Jerk Guy, should we be hopeful about the defensive line, as your article says?
Yeah, I mean, I think there is reason to think that group, especially the interior line, I don't know about their pass rush or anything like that, but I think the interior lines can be pretty good. Because I think, like, Barrow I think he's a force. I think he's a real player, and there was something to be said. Those guys were all talking about, with so little depth last year, even the best players were taking plays off, so to speak, out there. They couldn't give their all the time. I think the D-line has a chance to be a really good group and something this defense can hang its hat on.
Next one from the Jerk Guy. When will Jason's Michigan man make an appearance again? I don't know. Probably sometime this season, right? I would think.
Certainly
it is Cody Tucker. It's kind of like Cody Tucker / Michigan man.
It's perfect.
Don't you talk about Harbaugh. Jerk Guy. After which game will Spartan fans start looking forward to basketball?
Well, it could be the Central Michigan game, but
hopefully it's the Penn State game. Am I right?
At the end. And which game? I mean, certainly the Washington game will be a tell in a lot of ways, and then there's a stretch. Maryland will be, difficult, and I can see them losing that Maryland game, and that being one of those where people are like, "Oh God," and being 2-2, and it could be very likely in late September.
Jerk Guy, after which game will last one. Shit, my bad. Jerk Guy, would you rather go vegan or die?
I'd rather live and be a vegan. I wouldn't love it, but I would be a vegan. Would you rather be dead?
How old am I? Like right now?
Yeah, right now.
I would go vegan until I was maybe 60 and just call it.
And off yourself? Yeah.
Wow. No, I just figured I'd be dead.
Oh, I see. You can't call it, though. You have to end it somehow. I don't know. We'll fix that in post.
Who makes the rules
here?
Yeah,
that's a dire way to end a show. We appreciate all of you producing and listening and putting up with us. We appreciate Groovy Donuts. Go to groovydonuts.com if you want to place an order. Start thinking about them for your tailgates, any other parties, or just take a donut to the beach. You always look better in a swimsuit when you got some donuts in your belly. Appreciate Firekeepers. Go to Firekeepers or go to the Firekeepers Casino if you want the sportsbook experience. Download the app today if you want to bet the games we're betting. Thanks to Midtown Brewing Company as well. We are going to be off next week, last week of summer vacation. Then we're back and rolling for football season. Good show, man.
Yeah, man.
Couch in the Roof.